Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Gotta work this thing. Okay. All right. Give it 1 second, real quick. Let me bring some props out real quick. It's been a minute since I've gone live. Some water real quick. Hello to all of you. Hope everything is going well. It's been a while since I've gone live, right? And on my social media, I'll be talking to a student here shortly. So blessed are those who can come and join. We're gonna debrief real quick. I always like to do this when I have, when we're doing stuff out and about with students. At the end of the day, I like to debrief. I am trying to, man, I don't have my regular laptops to sign in. Try my best. Student comes out, I'm just gonna jump into talking. Here it is. So we're here to kind of debrief the day. Usually at the end of the day, I like to debrief and I record it. So in case you can go back to it, because there's a lot of information that was exchanged today. So you may forget some things. That's why you were given a journal, right? And later I'll give you a pen so that you can write down things that was noteworthy. When people live their life the way that they live their life, my program has always been about journaling is one of them. You have to journal. If you don't journal, you forget things. And how do you measure your own progress? See what I mean?
Yeah.
So many things happen in 1 year. So many things happen in 1 day, to where you don't kind of like ask yourself, how do I measure myself? Like, what did I say? What did I do? What's happening right now? So the journal serves as, when you have free time, you sit and you study. After you study, you reflect. What does this mean to me? What did I get out of this book? Why did Ajahn give me this book? What message is he trying to give to me, send to me, with the short amount of time that I have? My program has now gone in towards what I call Buddhist intelligence. It's the first of its kind ever. I think when you research Buddhist intelligence, you don't really get anything. I'm the first one ever to launch Buddhist intelligence. And the first thing in Buddhist intelligence is to find students who are intelligent. And two things: they're able to understand the Four Noble Truths and to investigate their roots. Whether they have poor roots or not, in accordance to the Buddha, the big thing, the most compelling thing, is the capability of understanding the Four Noble Truths. Right. In recapping today you were able to disclose things about your past, the practice of dependent arising, right here in this office, and again, if we have any attachment to the past, if we are still fueled by the past because we haven't looked at it closely, and own up to it once and for all and accept it, whether the existence of addiction, trauma, or abuse. In this case, I identify trauma. And unfortunately, it's part, and not to personalize it, but unfortunately, some of us do, in fact, go through very severe, heavy trauma. Just like some stories that I've shared with you that I don't want to repeat live on live video. And it's like, you see that fish tank right there?
Mm-hmm.
What if one of those fish had two fins instead of three fins? You know, where I stay, you know, there's a cat with three legs. It literally hops around. And I'm like, what is happening? And then if you sit and you eat here in Florida, you look at seagulls, and some seagulls have like not 3 feet, but two or one. They literally just hop around.
Yeah.
Because they got beat up. They got beat up because they fought over food. What does this have to do with anything about life? Well, it's the nature of life. Um, you know, fish, they fight. Birds, they fight. Then, you know, they got 2 feet instead of 3 feet. They got two fins instead of three fins. And they have to live with that. But do they know that? Probably not. You know, they don't really think about it. Like, why do I have two fins and not three? But we think about it.
Yeah.
If someone broke our leg, we remember it. And then we personalize it. And we take it very personal. So it's important in Buddhism that that's exactly the practice of the non-self, is how we don't take things personally. And we see it and we accept it. And we're like, well, these things happen because it was destined to happen. And some things we witness was destined for us to witness and for us to experience and go through the pain. It's like the cross that we have to carry. The cross that was thrown at us. And sometimes nail us right in the head. And we're like, I was just walking down the street. Then I got nailed. For no apparent reason. Is it fair? No, absolutely not. Then you and I went to eat, and then we went to the beach. We had some meditative experience out on the beach that you enjoyed. Any complications or difficulty during that process?
Other than like there being so many people, it was harder to keep track of motion in my breath. But that was very easily removed as I paid more attention to my breath in the ocean. Okay. This isn't. You see people and you can hear them walking slower as they walk by us. But back to the breath, back to the ocean. It was easy to stay focused, and the discipline became easier. I think it would, if we would have stayed longer, it would have been a lot easier to dispose of that distraction of the crowd, of all of that noise. It was easy.
Why do you think I exposed you to such environment?
To see how it would do in a big crowd, to see if it's right, because public meditation would be different to some. They're not used to it. So
Well, the other thing is a big reminder of how Buddhism is about getting your master's degree in minding your own business. Remember we talked about education,
yeah.
right? I'm not here to get my master's in Buddhism. I'm not here to get my master's in nothing. The Buddha taught me how to get a master's degree in minding my own damn business. And if you think closely and hard and deeply enough about that, you realize, wow, by minding my own business, I saved myself a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble, right? And somebody out there always got something to say about something, always. That's in life, right? Yeah, some people just can't stop talking about other people or things, and they don't know how to keep to themselves. So when you were out on the beach, I knew what your ear was going to do to you. It was going to hone in on the most closest sound, human, and then of course your mind was gonna be like, okay, Karen, get away from me. Like, Tom, shut up, I'm trying to meditate. But it was good because you have to learn to ignore. You have to learn to push that out. You have to learn to just go back to the instructions of just the ocean, you and the ocean. Then along the way, I said, now focus and taste the air, taste the salt in the air, right? And if you did it, you would know. Because I took a whiff of it and I'm like, oh, I am now with the ocean. It's very different, because I've already got my master's in minding my own business. So it was just me and the ocean.
Yeah.
Any kid that screamed or somebody else in the water, I don't really care. Me and the ocean, period. So you learn a lot of things, the experience, and to reflect that in your journal at night. Because everything that you're learning here, you may have to reteach it back to your kids. And slowly you see the benefit of how kids cannot remain mindful. They have ADHD bouncing all over the wall. They can't even tell you what they did yesterday because as you're asking them, they're talking about last week. And you're like, I didn't ask you about last week. I asked you about yesterday. What you eat again? They can't stay mindful.
Yeah.
Right. Um, Along the way, you asked me, well, what do you think about me? And again, the initial assessment with the available information I have is there's hope, there's capabilities, there is a lot in store for you on this path. And even though right now, the monk thing is not so important, I'm focusing on the current state of mind, the active attachment to the kids, the suffering, the sleep pattern, the things that you want me to know tomorrow. Now that you kind of feel comfortable talking to me, things that you want to address tomorrow in a deeper level and sense, more intimate, about if there's any disturbing thoughts before bed or after bed, or getting up in the morning. What's the first thought that comes to mind? Because usually the last emotion and the last thought determines the first emotion and first thought when you wake up. That's why people think that, well, if I go to vacation in Hawaii, I'll have a really good vacation. No, you're not. Whatever hell that you created here, you're going to take it with you. And you're going to wake up in a very expensive place, and you're still with that hell that you brought with you. So therefore, I need to know what that hell is, what that hell looks like. And then finally, we're here at the office, so that we can recap and to be reminded, well, hopefully this tells you that this can be you, the statues. And most likely you're going to take this one home with you. I need to tell my staff in Vietnam to send me more because these guys they're just awesome,
Yeah.
to carry around and to bring with you to the beach or in the park and just meditate, and then just you and the Buddha, and you just kind of just gaze into him and just look how peaceful he looks. Number one, the details in his face, how focused, and man, he got muscles too. I didn't realize that. Did you zoom in on him?
Yeah.
This is my first time I ever zoomed in on his arm, and I'm like, whoa. He definitely had a gym membership 2,600 years ago. LA Fitness, right here. And throughout this week, we're going to cycle through the different meditations. So besides the basic mindfulness of the breath, mindfulness, insight meditation, those are the two primary. And then there is the four protective meditation functions. And the first one is mindfulness of the Buddha Nusati. The second one is loving kindness meditation, metta. The third one is asubha bhavana, meditation on the 32 parts of the body. What we find attractive in the human body, we find unattractive nature. We spoke briefly about that. Number 4, mara nusati, mindfulness of death. Those are supporting meditations to cycle through when you're meditating and different things come up in your mind. That's when you're going to do some judo in your mind. Also, I wanted to emphasize loving kindness meditation. Have you tried it before? So loving kindness meditation is, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be free from mental suffering, may I be free from physical suffering. There are music to that on YouTube, which I'll send to you, right? that is very important, given the fact that growing up in a violent atmosphere, environment, the gang life, the violence, the guns, the PTSD from it, it's crucial, very, very crucial. And I understand that because I grew up as a very angry and volatile young man. And the first time I heard chant of metta, I was hooked onto it. Um, and I listened for like 10 years. 10 years. You knew about me breaking up with Christina on my arm. Uh, I went to, my dad knew that I was hitting rock bottom. I was hitting the fan. And my dad says, okay, you just broke up with this girl that you're very attached with. You need to go to Vietnam. And you stay there until you get yourself straight. So he sent me to Vietnam for like a year. And part of that year was me listening to loving kindness meditation. Repeatedly, over and over again, alone with my thoughts, seeking answers, merging with a Mahayana monk in my city. Every day, just trying to figure it out. Every day. So loving kindness meditation is going to be your primary medicine on this path, right? It's the only way, because right now things are still active in your life with the current situation. So anger will come and go. It will have its pulses, kind of like an EKG of the heart. It will have its pulses, and could affect your health. Could trigger high blood pressure. So loving kindness meditation, indefinitely. And then yeah, you got to see the chanting book. But eventually, you will hopefully probably in the middle of the week, I will teach you some chanting. Chanting is good. The benefits of chanting is that you get to recite the original language of the Buddha. Get your mind out of place. Again, you want to tap into Buddha nature. I think you said that, right? Tapping into Buddha nature. I think I wrote that down when you told me. And you just want your eyes fixated on the Buddha and his teachings. The Buddha and his teaching. The Buddha and his teachings. Just like kids that go to medical school. They want to be a doctor. Well, guess what? What did your professor say? And they just kind of just stick with what they've learned and they just repeat over and over so that they can graduate as a doctor. They don't really think about anything else. Same thing with any other profession. Us, aspired monks, especially you just get fixated on his teaching and his qualities. 9 qualities of the Buddha. You can look that up later. 9 qualities of the Buddha. Okay. So here are some things, just to inspire you in path of purification. The 4 protective meditation function comes out of this book in its simplest form. But this is what we want, to purify our minds. The 3 advice given by any Buddha is do good, don't do bad, and purify your mind. Right? So we don't aim to do bad, aim to do good always, and go with that book. Okay. And then these are the discourses of the Buddha. These are the Bibles that we jump into. But I'm showing this to you in the volumes that it is because you see how much work that you have to do. And that is why when you have this around your room, which eventually I'll send you some, that's why I rely on the donations so that I can buy books and send it to students. And I'm like, I know where you're at right now. I know you easily get distracted. I know things pull you away from this path. I'm going to send you some books. I want you to leave it all over your house. Books right up there. Bunch, right? And when you leave, so there's 5 original books. When you leave it all over your house, you have nowhere to run. Because they remind you have to, hey, why don't you read like 5 pages today? But every day you read 5 pages, you are so close to finishing. I didn't say you have to read 50 pages in a week. That's like, whoa, Ajahn, that's too much. You know what I mean? You just kind of like just break it up incrementally. This is the start of the self-discipline. Earlier, you talked about how you participated in SEALs training and other type of physical training. This is the slow, gradual SEALs training of the mind. And that's all we Theravadins do, is we train our mind to purify our mind. And it starts with little tiny instructions. You meditate incrementally, 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 15 minutes. And then you read incrementally you know, a couple pages here and there, and then eventually increase that amount of pages here and there. And maybe before you, there's your man. There's your man, right? Uh, um, yeah, cool,
Yeah.
right? You guys got your tattoo guns that you can, even tattoo guns that you can take to go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, to go, Dhamma.
That's cool.
So you can borrow this meanwhile, because when you go back to your hotel, I don't want you to get funny with your phone, like getting on dating apps. That's why I jam students with reading materials so they can have something to do rather than get on a dating app.
Okay.
Not saying you will, but that's the teacher's mind. He's always going to think you're going to look for entertainment elsewhere. If not, Amazon Prime, HBO, Cinemax, whatever. You guys see this? Cool. I make sure my students stay on point. All right, and then lastly, the robes, this is warrior status. To be different. And you talked about being different. And yeah, we're really rare. The few, the proud, the Marines. We're the Marines of Buddhism. Straight up, front line, bold, very bold. You stand on ground. And so these are some of and through the triple gems, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and this is the Sangha. And so the reflections on the monastic order to want to be part of the monastic order, to uphold the highest standard of ethics and morality, is worth thinking about. So there's a lot of reflections that keep you straight. It doesn't really steer you. It doesn't give a chance for the mind to steer elsewhere. Furthermore, you were given a bunch of books up there. The cognitive behavioral therapy will help you with anxiety and depression, if there is anxiety and depression. That is a requirement in my program. You must master CBT. Why? Because your kids also depend on it. When they come to you for advice, you need to tell them, hey, you're blowing things out of proportion and you're jumping to conclusions without evidence. So that is rooted in Western psychology. CBT has been around for like 50 years. Every therapist has to know it. Every doctor has to know it. They have to be trained in it. And so, like I said, you need to be your own doctor, with the existence of having the children that you have. I give you what's beyond mindfulness. That is for later when you take that home. I give you the Dhammapada. Everyone knows the Dhammapada, right? This is all good stuff. So when you get bored with one, you can cycle through the other one. Because, sometimes reading these things can trigger or stress you out a little bit. So you just take a break from psychology and go with Dhammapada. Be inspired by a couple verses, write it down. Write everything down. That's how I know you're doing the work. Because if you didn't write it down, it didn't happen. So you can tell me you read 50 pages, but you didn't write anything down or explain to me. You need to be able to make a compelling case that, hey, I did the work clearly. I just want to share, show and tell time. It's like, hey, John, this is what I read. This is what it means to me. I want to tell you about it. That needs to happen weekly.
Okay.
Because if you're not doing that weekly, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Right. So that's how I track my students. Like, you came to me for help. I gave you my prescription. Did you take the pill or did you not? And if you took the pill, how was it? Because if you didn't take the pill, I would know because you have nothing to say.
Yeah.
It's easy being a teacher. So anyway, this concludes my brief debrief for the day. Given a student travel far away from the other side of the United States to come see me. And again, the student's only here for 1 week. The student identity is kept secret. Nowadays, I tend to keep things confidential for the sake of privacy. And I will update all of you as we go along. It's been 5 months since I've gone live. Anyone have any question, please feel free to reach out. Thank you, and have a good night to all of you. My blessings. May all be well, be happy, be free, and always be healthy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, we're ready to